That's a challenge.
Recording?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our joint Earth Day 2021 meeting. And this is an exceptional time because we are combining the meeting from the Residents' Council that we have every month, every 2 weeks, as a matter of fact, and the Sustainability Committee. And we are, I'm Yakov Pippen. I'm in essence wearing two hats, one from the council and one from the Sustainability Committee. And we have one of our members in the Sustainability Committee, which is Rob Dunn. I mean, a friend and colleague and very active in our committee. So welcome, Rob.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we'll start with a couple of questions. I mean, Rob is the director of the Environmental Services Department. Do I have it right?
Correct. Yes.
And how long have you been in this position?
I've been in this position since about October of 2015.
Oh,
I started working here in December of 2013.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
this is my 32nd year now in environmental services. So 32 years I've been doing this.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And what are your main responsibilities here and how large is your staff? I mean,
our staff runs just under 30, if you include me and Kerry. We're about 29 staff members right now. And that can vary, depending on hiring processes and where we are. But a regular staff is about 30 staff for us.
So that's a pretty large group. I mean, to manage.
Yes, and that encompasses the entire campus. That includes independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, laundry services that we provide in the health center, central supply and purchasing, which we provide for in the health center, and some of independent living as well. So that encompasses that whole piece because we also do purchasing and all that stuff.
It doesn't include the environmental, like gardening and all that stuff. That's
not on grounds. That would fall under Tom. So yes, you could interview Tom. That's a good reason to interview Tom for something like that.
I don't know that he's going to be too happy about that, but
that's all right. That's what buses are for. You just drive right over. But yeah, I mean, we've got about 30 staff members, in various, functions throughout the building. And what was the first part of the question? The job functions?
Yeah, I mean, your responsibilities.
Yeah, my responsibilities is I oversee all, 30 staff members. And you all know, Carrie Burns, who is a supportive supervisor in that role as well. And she's fantastic. We're kind of like, one mind, she's very helpful. She's very thorough. She helps with the scheduling and all the things that, I can't put my finger on. And then that encompasses, like I said, independent living housekeeping services, where we clean every 2 weeks for people over here. We clean daily in the health center, throughout the health center. That encompasses purchasing, buying, items, medical items for skilled nursing and all that kind of stuff.
So that's quite extensive.
Yes.
And how has the scope of your department activities or your role changed over the years, and particularly over the last year and a half?
Right.
I mean, COVID.
Yeah, I think our department has evolved over the time that I've been here. Is usually just, basic housekeeping services. And I think as, the community grew, our schedule grew, our staff needed to grow. So we've increased our staff, there's a rather large campus to maintain. So there's a lot of cleaning that needs to happen on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and different things. So our staff has grown tremendously. Our tasks have changed a lot in the last year to focus more on the disinfection of areas, the common services, the things that everyone touches, that not everyone was always thinking about. The pandemic has definitely raised a lot of awareness on, how many times you're washing your hands and cleaning your hands on a daily basis, and all the little things that you realize you touch throughout the day, and the people you come in contact with, I mean, not everyone was wearing a mask, a year and a half ago. So it's, I mean, you got to get used to that kind of feeling. It's been a little bit different, I think, for, staff, residents, and it's been an adjustment for everybody.
Of course.
Added a little bit of stress.
We can tell. I mean,
yes. But it's definitely, made us a little bit more conscious. Maybe, the silver lining is that it made us more aware of providing a clean environment, you know.
Yeah. So what would you say is the most difficult part of your job, and what are the main challenges of your job, of your group?
I think there's several challenges. I think in the last year, on the purchasing side, some items have not been readily available that were always available to us at the
Mhm.
drop of a hat. Whether it's just a surgical mask that you could get anywhere,
Yeah.
or all of a sudden they weren't available. So that was a big challenge. The challenge, was getting through and adjusting to more thorough deep cleaning, and getting everyone in other departments and residents to kind of get on board and say, because we spend a lot of time cleaning up after other departments and other areas.
Yeah.
um, that's been an adjustment. So I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened in the past year that we've been, I think, just more aware. It's raised a lot of consciousness about
So
cleaning.
from your individual, from your personal point of view, what do you find the most difficult part of your job
um
besides dealing with Tom?
Besides, that's great. That's great. I wish I had said that. We should cut this out later and mail it to him. I think for us, the challenge is, I think keeping, staff happy and, and keeping the morale high. That can be a challenge at times,
Yeah.
because it's been such a weight on everybody. And I think in our department, we do a pretty good job of that. I feel like we all work together from different departments.
Yeah.
Sure, we have our challenges and nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
me included,
No.
Tom especially.
Is that?
Yes. But I think that all of us coming together, yes, it has been challenging, but it has brought us all a little bit more together, I think,
Yeah.
as a community.
So what would you say is the easiest part of your job?
It's definitely the residents, you guys, the staff, working with them every day.
Is that easy?
Yes, I think, because I think there's a lot of great people that work here. You know what I mean? Working, and I'm just talking, my staff, in particular, I love the group of people that we have working for us. They're pleasant, they're willing to help, they're willing to pitch in, they'll help another department if they need help, or they're just, they're a fun bunch to just kind of work with. And, they don't take everything so seriously. They will joke around a little bit and they'll have fun while they're doing their job, which is
So you say that that's part of the fun.
yeah,
in the
I
job,
really
isn't
just
it?
enjoy, the camaraderie I have with my staff, my fellow department heads and my staff that work,
Yeah.
for us in EVS. They're great people. They
Yeah.
really are.
And what would you say is what can the residents do better or stronger or more frequently to make your job or your group, the job of your group,
I think
easier or better?
I think for us in environmental services is this campus is so large. And with, only 30 staff members, and you think about the square footage that we have in this building, our eyes can't be everywhere. So, the more that you guys can see and report to us and say, hey, there's a coffee spill here in the hallway that we didn't necessarily see.
Yeah.
You guys report that or report it to concierge. I think we need your eyes throughout this whole community, whether it's in the health center or over here. That's the most helpful to us, because if somebody just says, hey, this mass has been on the table for a week and nobody's picked it up, report it. If you see something that's out of place or see something that's broken, report it right away. And I think that would help us tremendously get to the problems that people see quickly.
Yeah. And this brings to mind, I mean, there are new signs that you and the group put up in the trash rooms, for example.
Yes.
And how's that help? Is that being effective? As are the instructions, for instance, being followed? I mean, or do you find that there is still a lot of education that needs to happen?
I do believe there's still a lot of education that needs to happen. Yes, we've got all the signs up. Yes, they're over the containers they're supposed to be. It's very tough to police. It's very hard because you're relying on everyone to, read the sign and understand the sign. And that's there. And that does become an extreme challenge. It's definitely education, because we are seeing that even with the new signs, the rooms have been painted, the floors have been done, that it's still not quite perfect. And it's great because I do have residents that reach out to me when they see something now. You know, so I think the signs have been effective because residents are now reaching out to me and saying, hey, I see this in the recycling bin, or I see this, or where is it supposed to go? Which bin do I put this in? So I've gotten more phone calls on that, which I think, you know, you guys as a committee or we as a committee have raised a little bit more awareness on that. Where are things supposed to go? How do I dispose of this? If they're not sure, they'll bring it down to the office and say, hey, what do I do with this? And say, you know, we'll just take it for you. But I'm glad that people are asking more questions.
Well,
you know?
I mean, I know that, you know, a couple of people in our committee have worked with you trying to kind of see from the point of view of the residents, I mean, how people interact with those. So definitely this is important for us as a sustainability committee, because we want to improve what people do, not necessarily to impose on them more work, but to do the right thing.
Right. And we want to recycle effectively. We don't want to contaminate the recycling that we do send out of here that does get reused and, you know, repurposed. You know, so we don't want to see that hindered by contaminating that particular load that gets sent out of here.
Now, because, you know, Earth Day is now about restoring our Earth, basically.
Right.
And the Sustainability Committee has been focused for the last year and a half. George, is that more or less since we formed the committee? We have been trying also to kind of look into the different R's, the reuse, recycle, repair, and so on. And one of them is composting. It doesn't start with an R, I don't know, but it's still important.
Yes, yes.
And I know that we have discussed this at different times, I mean, of different issues with the composting. How is that been working, and has that, have you seen any improvement, changes, or things that still need to be improved?
I do think there's been some improvement in the contaminants that we found, because the company always reaches out to me and will tell me, you know, I found contaminants in the composting, and we're not seeing that as frequently. It's rare. I think the last one I've gotten one complaint this year from the composting company that a wrong material was put into the container, which was better than before, which seemed like it was going like almost every month. There'd be something in a container at the end of the wing. But I feel like that's improving. I think during the pandemic, we're composting a lot less than we were before. I think the pandemic has affected composting in that way because of how the kitchen produces food. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting point. I mean, can you expand on that? I mean,
I think well, because the portions are now delivered, you know, in a certain ratio where maybe we're dining, you're making, you know, maybe 50 plates and only 30 people come down, you know, where before you're delivering food and you kind of know who's getting it. I think Ronnie has a great handle on the system that they're using right now. And she's done a fantastic job of adjusting that.
And she's also a member of our committee.
Yes. Yes, and she's pitched in greatly, you know, whether it's the types of containers and how we use the containers. So yeah, she's great that way. But yes, we have seen a decline. And I think as, you know, we get back to whatever normal is, or, you know, at some point down the road, or there might be a hybrid model of what is normal, we'll see our composting numbers increase. And go from there.
Do you think that there is an influence in the fact that people may be cooking more or less, or cooking less at home, that may affect that?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I don't know like how many people use that, you know, feature. I mean, it's a feature in apartments that I feel like was always underused, that people didn't use their ovens, but now that they're staying home, and, you know, you're probably seeing a lot more of that. I think the challenge maybe for the residents is maybe getting the food to the composting bins. That's probably their biggest challenge, because it can be a distance, you know, for some residents to travel all the way down to the north end or the south end.
So right now for the residents, we have only two places: outside the south building and outside the north building.
Yes, on the floor, on the first floor exit on the back side of the building. Yes. Yeah, so we've looked at other alternatives, but we can't really bring the composting into the building. No, you know, it just creates other issues, pest control issues that we really don't want to bring into.
Yeah. So what do you see sometimes residents getting, you know, telling you things or addressing things to your group that really don't belong, that they should be addressing to other groups?
You mean like function-wise in departments,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
just?
somebody calling you for, well, the paint in my thing
Yeah,
needs retouching. That
right,
obviously doesn't,
right. There is
doesn't,
there is some crossover that way, and I think you get that from all of us working in the same department.
yeah,
And I think that yes, I'll get, if I get a question on pest control. Oh, and while you're here, my range isn't working. So I try and point them in the right direction of
uh-huh,
going to the proper department. And if there's ever any confusion on that, the go-to answer is always, go to concierge and they'll put in a work order for you. That's the best way to accomplish anything. I can try and point you in the right direction, but it's always go to concierge and
yeah.
put in a work order for something. But
So,
yeah, you do
the,
get a lot of that.
the concierge is usually the best.
It's the best avenue for
triaging.
Yes.
Of calls.
Right,
basically.
because they'll funnel that into the right department.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that makes our jobs a lot easier. So, if maintenance is getting work orders to clean the bathroom, or that's not really going to help anything, so the concierge does a great job of filtering that and putting things where they need to go.
No,
And that
that's
helps us get to it more effectively.
Now, I know that before this interview, we talked about what do you do in your free time and what you like to do. And
Yeah, I think more people recently have seen me here lately with my new puppy.
yes,
So he's taken up a lot of my time recently. His name is Moose. He's a golden retriever that's about 10 weeks old. So you will see him here on a couple days during the week. And I do appreciate everyone stopping in to say hi to him. And he's very friendly, and he's, new to the neighborhood.
So right now he's about this size, I guess.
No, he's about this size right now. We call him Moose for a reason, and he's going to be on the larger side of golden retrievers, but he's a handful right now, but he's, everyone here is just in love with him, and he just kind of looks at you with those brown eyes, but he's been keeping me pretty busy the last few weeks when we picked him up. So we've had him about 2 weeks, but everyone loves him here. He's great to have.
But besides him, I mean, do you have other hobbies and things that you do for relaxing or trying to forget about work? I mean,
yes, I have a few avenues that I address. Even post-pandemic, I'm a big volleyball dad. You'll see my daughter here working sometimes. On Thursdays or Fridays, she works for Jason. But she's a big volleyball star. That she's my favorite volleyball player of all time. So. That was always my pastime, was to just watch her play and, just to see her grow as a player and just grow as a person. She's fantastic. And for me personally, I'm a big video gamer. So that's what I'll spend some time, playing video games. I'm Generation X, guys, so I grew up on an Atari. I grew up, Space Invaders and Pac-Man, and, now it's kind of evolved. So, yeah, I've spent probably more time than I should admit, playing video games, but it is what it is,
Well, that's okay. I mean, all of us have, other things that we do.
Keep yourself busy. Yeah.
I mean, when I need to get out of my desk, step out. I mean, I look for something to be fixed.
Right. I must say, it's very effective in helping me kind of forget that there's, a kind of a crazy world out there sometimes.
So what about drumming?
Drumming, that's a past hobby. It was fun when you're young, the creating music and going out there and playing to all hours at night and still, not going to sleep and be able to go to work the next morning. I can't do that anymore. I don't know what happened or when it happened, but I can't really do that anymore. I love drums. I still have them. I still have multiple sets. I do have a little snare drum and a couple toms set up in the dining room that don't really belong there. And I'll bang on them once in a while, just to kind of, keep things moving or whatever. But my house really isn't big enough, to set up my drum sets, because my drum sets are rather large, and it's a lot of space. They're not fun to move around. So once you put it up, you're like, I'm leaving it here and it's going to stay there, So, but I do miss the creative side of music. I really do,
You should look into. I mean, there are drums that are electronic. You can have all your earphones and nobody else hears
else can hear you. I kind of checked with my daughter on that one, and she was like, "No, Dad, we don't have any more space." So she kind of keeps me in check from buying stuff like that, you know. So to me, it's just I put the silent pads on the drums, and that kind of keeps the noise down, and that's fine. So I'm not going all out driving the neighbors crazy. Those days are over. But I love talking about drums, talking about music, and playing in different places. When I used to play when I was a kid, I got the chance to play in clubs in the New York City area, which were, you know, just a great experience for me. And I wish, you know, a lot of kids that, you know, are playing music
In
now.
New York City? Where in New York City?
I got to play at CBGB's before it closed, which was a big down on Bleecker Street, you know, so I got to play down there. It was a pretty famous club at the time. So that was a fun experience for me, you know, for a local kid who grew up, you know, up here, just playing local places to go down there into the city. It was kind of like, oh, like I feel like I've made it, but no, I didn't really. Yeah, Patti Smith, Guns N' Roses, Living Colour, they all played there. There's a great little room in the back that everybody would sign, like a sign on the wall. Like,
so
it was great.
There, you were there?
No. I just admiring.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It was a great experience for a young kid just out of high school, you know, but it's not really a life I really would have chosen, you know, looking back on it, you know, it's a lot of work, you know, it's like being married to 4 people or 5 people, depending on how many are in the band. And, you know, it's tough being married to one, you know, so that's just my opinion. But I think that the traveling experience was always great, but not carrying the drums around, you know. I wish I learned at a younger age that, you know, don't try and pick up the drum set, you know, and ruin your back or do something like that. But it was a fun experience overall, though.
And now in the sustainability committee, I mean, I know we are working on one other item, which is the recycling or reusing or reducing the use of paper. And I know that you are very, you know, you have very clear ideas about that, or maybe not so clear, but I mean,
right. And
I'm trying to work out.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of waste. You know, I think we've become a society of just kind of just take it, throw it away, take it, throw away. Everything has become disposable. And trying to do that, you know, I remember as a kid, yes, I am that old where, you know, soda and milk came in glass bottles. And then once the plastic bottles came, they didn't stop and they just keep coming, you know. And I think that we just see so much waste nowadays that it's hard to go back to the way things were before and try and improve things. You know, you're trying to take, you know, a 40-year step backwards that you have multiple generations that have kind of been taught. You just throw it away and you get another one, you know?
Well, with paper in particular, I mean, because of the advent of computers and people getting to use and more familiar with the use of computers, we may have a chance and an opening to address some, at least part of it.
Right.
It's not going to resolve everything.
Right.
But,
And
I mean,
now you can save, you know, your files on your computer instead of, you know, stuffing them in your drawer and printing it out.
As long as you don't print them also to have an extra copy.
Right. Yes. We don't want that. Yeah. We don't want the backup copy because that's not really helping. But yeah, I understand what you mean. But I think there's a lot of areas that we can look at to, you know, to improve things, you know, and that's really what we need to look at.
And do you have any thoughts about what the Sustainability Committee or the community at large should be focusing besides, you know, these 2 specific issues, the composting and the paper
Yeah, I
use?
think composting and recycling are extremely important. I think it always comes down to education, you know, and getting the word out to everyone and getting everyone to follow the same guidelines. And that's really tough. I mean, we see how many people drive and how many people obey the driving laws and the speed laws. It's tough to get everyone on board. But if you paint a clear enough picture about what we're doing to the planet, and this is the only one we have, you know, you can go out and buy another car, you can, you know, replace a lot of things, but you can't replace the planet. It's the only one we have.
Yeah, that's exactly. We have in the audience 2 members of the council, basically, here, just in front of us. Do you guys have any questions for Rob or for me? Annette? No? George?
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, come pick up the phone, the microphone. Sorry.
I'd just like to
push a little further, Rob. Here you got the planet right in front of you here. And is there something more beyond what you've been talking about down the line, maybe even 10 years from now, where Woodland Pond should be or has to go to save the planet? Do you have any other larger images that come to mind?
Off the top of my head, I don't at the moment. I think if we all look at ourselves as individuals and see what we can do individually, we'll see what kind of impact that makes. And I think as we reach out, as the sustainability committee reaches out to individuals and we educate, we can start making a bigger dent down the road 10 years from now. So if we do a lot of little things now, we can make a big dent later on. Yes, there's green energy and a lot of things that, I'm sure the facility can look at further down the road. But I think that we need to look at ourselves first and then work ourselves out. And then I think we'll see a lot of things improve that way. And it's just a matter of, am I doing the right thing? Am I disposing things the right way? How can I reduce as an individual? And then when you look at the whole community, now we've got hundreds of people doing the same thing. It starts making a significant dent in what we're producing annually, wasteful here. So those are the things, we can change that way, down the road. And I think that can start making some impact. But for me, it's always small steps in making the right turn in direction.
Well, that's a good point. And I think what I want to do is, thank you so much, for you joining me. I know that you were reluctant to sit next to me, but
No. Any chance I get, to talk about what we can do to make things better here, and I think that's really what we all need to do here. How can we make things better?
Yeah.
Not just for the individual, but how can we make things better for Woodland Pond, how we can make it better for the planet. And if we can all look at it the same way, it's, it'll make a big difference.
Yeah. Well, in that note, I think I want to invite everybody in the community at Woodland Pond to join the efforts of the Sustainability Committee. We have plenty of things that we think should be done, but we have only so much energy and time. Among the few of us that we already were recruited to this. And
we're always looking for suggestions as well. Even if you don't want to come and you have a suggestion, make a suggestion.
Oh, yeah.
We're willing to look at anything and everything that we can to make it better. But thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. I appreciate all the effort, that staff make, that residents make to make this place better, to make the planet better. I think it's, like I said, it's one step at a time, but I appreciate all of you.
I think these are wise words to conclude this session of part of Earth Day celebration. As a matter of fact, Earth Day is the 51st anniversary
year.
Of Earth
It's older than
Day.
I am. Huh? Yes, it's older than I am. I was surprised.
and also, it's I think a good reminder that this week there have been a lot of events, both nationally, internationally, globally, on Earth Day, and activities on YouTube, on the internet, and so on and so forth. Even here in Woodland Pond, in Newport, if you walk to the walk path along the Wallkill, there is a whole display of posters. There is another display along Huguenot Street of the flags of different countries with a label showing in which category in terms of the carbon footprint these countries have.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, the US unfortunately has a red flag, so we are probably among the worst.
Yeah, the worst offenders. And I think we'll get better. We'll make things to get better.
But there are other countries which surprisingly are doing, quite well. And we need to encourage everybody to kind of improve that.
Right. And we don't want just one day to be Earth Day. We want 365 days of Earth Day. You know what I mean? So I think that's really where we need to get to. So, but thank you for having me.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for attending. And this is going to be on YouTube. So whoever didn't get to see it, if your friends or colleagues or family want to watch this, go to YouTube this afternoon. It's going to be there.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Anytime you guys
everybody.
want to have me back, feel free. I got more jokes on Tom, so welcome.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Appreciate
That's
it.
great.
Gretchen has asked me to remind everybody that at 2 o'clock on this channel 1340, we will be connecting in with the National Earth Day events, which are quite considerable and well worth watching. So stay tuned. Thank you.